Video from my 4th of July weekend 2016 dive to Farnsworth Bank with Power Scuba. Farnsworth Bank is a sea pinnacle that lies off the backside of Catalina. I had always been under the impression it was closer to two harbors, but as you can see from this topographical map, it's actually pretty much dead in the middle behind Catalina Island itself. The viz was not great for Farnsworth Bank. It was 30 feet or so, maybe, but the beauty of Farnsworth Bank is the life here is just so incredibly rich. Our first dive was a traditional Farnsworth Bank dive where we sort of circumnavigated and found the yellow wall. Here's an up-close shot of the tiny, tiny anemones that make up the yellow wall. This is one of the resident eels hanging upside down with some purple hydrocoral. And, of course, there were scorpion fish and rockfish of various sorts all over the place. But the most interesting encounters, to me, were the two-spot octopus. There were octopi everywhere. And what was really different was that they were out and about. They weren't just hiding in their cracks, staring at you with the one eye like you're used to. These were also full-grown octopi. Their arm span was a good 3 feet. You can see JP's arm there for comparison. I was really surprised by the level of interaction. I don't know if they were breeding or what. An interesting fact about octopi is that scientists believe that they have a distributed neural network, in that all of the processing isn't just in a central brain. The individual arms have large clusters of neurons as well. So they think that the main brain tells the arm to perform a function, and the arm just does that function. Here's a Hermesenda cassicornis. This was a small one. I've got a much better shot of one at a different dive location later in the video. Here is a McFarlandi nudibranch. You can tell this is a McFarlandi by the 3 stripes that you see. What was really interesting is that there were also Mexichromis nudibranchs, which look almost exactly like the McFarlandi, but as you can see here, they've got 2 stripes instead. 3 is McFarlandi, 2 is the Mexichromis. This was a rather interesting spot because there were several groups of the Mexichromis. There was probably a dozen on this one part of the wall. This, I believe, is a Genolus barbarensis. I took a couple of different shots from a couple of different angles. This is a very pretty nudibranch that I may have only seen once in the past in San Clemente. It was larger than the Spanish shawls, and its serrata were much more distributed. I think that's the rhinophores you see there in the front. We then moved to another dive site around the front side of Catalina, just around the corner. I didn't catch its name. There were sea hares mating en masse. Here's a close-up of the eggs. You can see the strands look kind of like spaghetti and all the individual little tiny eggs. Very cool to see them. And this was a juvenile treefish. I just thought it was rather pretty and hadn't seen a juvenile before. And this was a bat ray that we saw that was actually digging a hole in the sand as part of the feeding behavior. You'll see more of it in the future. Our next spot was Ship Rock. Ship Rock is a rock that's outside of 2 harbors on the front side of Catalina. This is a really popular place for diving, for fishing, and for technical divers because it gets rather deep. While we were here, I saw several large game fish that I don't see all that frequently while diving. As you can tell, the viz wasn't the best. This is maybe 40 or 50 feet down, and 40 or 50 feet down, it was maybe 20 feet, maybe 15 feet. There was a lot of grit in the air, or in the water, I should say. There were quite a few fish. Now, for the second dive, we did 2 dives here. For the second dive, we went much deeper. And deeper, this is about 100 feet. The viz opened up significantly. This is more like 60-plus foot viz. There were horn sharks absolutely everywhere. I mean, every crack you looked under, there seemed to be a horn shark. And they were all pretty much full-grown horn sharks. It was horn shark after horn shark after horn shark. They tend to not like my lights too much, but it's the only way I can get a real good shot of them. In some instances, there were actually two sitting on top of each other in a cave, as you can see right here. It's very cool to see so many of them concentrated in one place. And here they had the sea hares as well. To give you some perspective of just how big these things are, I stick my hand into the shot. So they're large enough that they wouldn't fit into two palms of my hand. So here's another shot of a bat ray in that feeding behavior. They sort of pound the sand and shoot some of it through their sphericals on their back. I believe they're looking for mollusks and crustaceans. It's kind of an interesting behavior. They leave all these divots in the sand. You can tell that a bat ray's been in the area by these circular indentations. And he's looking at us, looking at him, not too happy. Here's a much better shot of the Hermesinde cassicornis. They actually have little eyes in the front. You can see the rhinophores there. And I don't think he was so happy with the lights, so he decided that he was going to be a little camera shy and turn around. Great shot, though. I was really pleased with this. Here's another Hermesinde cassicornis from a slightly different angle. This one wasn't as shy. These are really, really pretty nudibranchs. Here's a navinox. A navinox is not actually a nudibranch, but it eats other nudibranchs. This was sort of an epic hunt scene, because right up here is a Hermesinde cassicornis. So this navinox is engaged in the world's slowest chase. I think this is a Peltodolus molinieri. I hadn't seen this nudibranch before, neither had JP, so we're kind of taking a guess. This isn't the best shot, it's a little bit out of focus. Here's a Spanish shawl. I know they're a dime a dozen, but they always seem to pick the highest current area and are just hanging on as tight as they can as they flap back and forth in the surge. I think they're really pretty. Our last dive was Isthmus Reef, or as depicted here, Harbor Reef. This is a really common site for fishermen, for doing lobster dives. What's nice about this site is that it plateaus up to 10 feet, maybe. And you can go off the sides and get down to 90 or so feet. This is a Hypsilodorus californica. I've only ever actually seen 3 of these in my diving career so far. And actually, 2 of them were on this dive. The last one I saw was maybe 2 years ago. I think this is the same Peltodorus, although this one was significantly larger. It was also finally in a spot where I could use my tripod. I carry a little Joby Gorilla Pod with me and try to take tripod shots when I can, but half of these nudibranchs are on walls, like this guy, so it's just a little difficult. Once again, an awesome Power Scuba trip. It's always a blast to be with a bunch of friends, a bunch of like-minded individuals. As always, I can't wait for the next one.